Hi, this is Camille Herron. I'm the queen of ultra running. You're listening to the Physical Performance Show with Brad Beer.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Endure IQ's online triathlon courses, Pogo Physio's online award-winning telehealth consultations, and now the Physical Performance Show Learn-Ins membership. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. And of course we do this across a range of our different episodes, interest editions, coaches corners, featured performers and expert editions. And coming off the back of last week's very popular expert edition featuring Phil Burt, former Team Sky and British cycling head physiotherapist around all things bike fit and cycling fundamentals, we're throwing the running shoes on. And this week I'll share with you a conversation that I had recently with the queen of ultra running, none other than Camille Herron. Now, if you are well versed in the ultra running world, you will know Camille Herron and her exploits. If you're not, then this is a name you will not forget. Camille Herron has been referenced in the work of some of our prior featured guests, Adharan Finn, author of The Rise of Ultras, who shares Camille's story in that book. And also, prior expert edition 187, Christy Ashwindon, author of Good to Go, who included Camille's approach to her training and recovery inside Good to Go's pages. But Camille's bio is exemplary. Camille is the 50K, 100K, 24-hour world champion, holder of 5 world records, winner of the Comrades Marathon, and at the time of recording, Camille was just weeks away from attempting to improve her 12-hour and 100-mile world records. Fascinatingly, Camille broke the 100-mile trail world women's record by 1 hour, running 12 hours and 42 at her first attempt at ever running 100 miles. 1 month later, she broke the 12-hour world record. Now, to give you some insight into just how fast Camille runs these world records at, the 50-mile world record was set 5 hours and 38 minutes, which is equivalent to a 4:12 per kilometre pace. The 100-mile road trail world record, 12 hours 42, was run at a 4:43 per kilometre pace. And the 24-hour road record, a distance covered of 270 kilometres, was run at a 5:20 per kilometre pace. Meanwhile, the equivalent track record that Camille set, 262 kilometres, that's right, running around a track for 24 hours, was set at a 5:30 per kilometre split pace. And during this conversation, as per our normal process for featured guests, Camille shares around the highs, lows and learnings of her career. Now, alongside Camille's very clear and evident running prowess, she's also been an academic researcher in the field of bone health. And you'll hear Camille share tips around how to look after our bones as endurance athletes from her science and also her running perspective, the key role that the menstruation cycle needs to play for female athletes, structuring a training cycle and what key sessions need to be included, how Camille has been able to run 160 kilometres per week, 100-mile weeks consecutively since November 2006. Camille shares around the power and the importance of running easy when it's a designated easy run. And of course, there's a usual physical challenge for the week that will get your legs and lungs burning. Get ready for the learn-ins. Here is my conversation with Camille Herron, queen of the ultra running world.
Camille Herron, the ultra running queen, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thanks for having me, Brad. It's fun to chat with people from all the way around the world.
Well, Camille, all around the world, and it's a strange time we're living in, but I mean, your bio, as per what I've already outlined, is just exemplary comrades champion, 50K, 100K, 24-hour world champion, 5 world records. But someone like yourself that's so used to travelling to races, enjoying that experience, how have you been coping through this very difficult year? Yourself and Connor, your husband.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild. We actually got our house remodeled like right before the pandemic. So we had all the carpet taken out and had the walls painted and had our kitchen remodeled. And I feel very fortunate we had that done because we've had a pretty cozy environment here, just being home buddies here for 7 to 8 months. So yeah, fortunately, I mean, we live in Alamosa, Colorado, and it's really awesome here for running, and we've had a really great summer. And so yeah, I've just still been able to keep up my routine of getting out running twice a day, every day. And yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful here. So we're just enjoying being here, and just taking it in stride with not being able to travel like I usually do. So.
And Camille, so what I hear there is that your legs of steel, which have been forged on 100-mile weeks consecutively since 2006 November, that hasn't stopped. The pandemic hasn't slowed you down there in Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've just, been trying to control what I can control, which, I mean, I'm so used to my routine of getting out running every day, twice a day, running 100+ miles per week. That, I mean, for me, it's like brushing your teeth every day, twice a day. I feel like it's just kind of wired in me to do that. So whether there's races or not, that doesn't really impact like how I train and my routine. So yeah, I mean, and that really impacts my happiness and just feeling good every day. So.
And as the physiotherapist in me, Camille, is just is compelled to the beauty of that approach, that high chronic training load, and how that can be so injury protective. And obviously, we want to touch on your academic world around bone health as well. But Camille, to get to this twice a day running state and be able to maintain it for so long, you must see that as one of the key reasons why you've not been injured in many years and been able to just to keep showing up and putting out the good work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I started running twice a day most days when I was in grad school. And I did my master's thesis basically on how to structure mechanical stress in such a way that it's anabolic to bone. So I remember sitting in a talk when I was in grad school, and they were talking about how it was more anabolic to split the stress into multiple bouts during the day with a 4 to 8 hour recovery period in between. So, the runner in me was trying to absorb what they were saying and thinking about, from a running perspective. And around that same time was when I started running twice a day and running 100 miles a week. And I was feeling so good from that. And I felt like it was, what I was learning academically, I was applying it with myself, and I was seeing those benefits. So yeah, I was kind of instilling, my academic mind and my running background. It was really cool to see that, coming to fruition. So
the science and your academic work has really informed your training and your approach, even though the twice a day doesn't quite equate to the 48-hour window between running bouts. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you kind of have to look at it on a micro scale, the day-to-day basis, and then also the macro scale of, compounding days and weeks and months together. So, gosh,
and I mean, while we're on this theme of a training week, so you're clocking 100 miles consistently. You've been able to do that successfully for 14, 15 years. What does it what are the key ingredients in a training week for you, Camille? I mean, how do those runs look across the day? Are they the same distance, or how do you sort of structure it? I know there's going to be variations through the year, of course.
I think I'm definitely some sort of genetic outlier because when my husband started coaching me, and I mean, I could string together 100-mile weeks. Like I did like 16 straight weeks of 100 miles a week. And that's something that my husband couldn't do. My husband was a 1355K guy, 218 marathoner. And I mean, he could only handle that kind of mileage, like, maybe a couple times in a training block, whereas I could string it together, 16 weeks in a row, or now going on 14 years of averaging over 100 miles per week. So I'm very, very blessed, I guess, genetically. The way I run, I'm very light on my feet. I don't break down as easily. And so, in terms of, how we kind of figured out how to structure training is really on more of a 2-week cycle. We think of training as a 2-week cycle of doing a variety of speed work. So we focus on short intervals, long intervals, a hill session, and a progression run. So 4 main workouts over a 2-week period. And then in between those high intensity efforts is just easy running where, like I said, I'm running, twice a day, most days. And I mean, I have a pretty good sense of how my body feels. And I mean, if I get out and run twice a day, I can usually string that together, maybe 4 to 6 doubles in a row. And then I tend to hit a point where I just start to feel tired and I just need to have, a single run or a day off. I feel like Connor and I work really well together, me giving him feedback on what I feel like doing, and that's really essential, just being able to know my body and know what I feel like doing. And, he's pretty good, being around each other every day, that knowing if he can tell when I'm tired and, dragging, having a harder time getting out the door and like need a day off here every once in a while. So,
gosh, and there's that really keen instinct to listen to your body. And I want to explore that because Christy Ashwindon, in a fantastic book who we've featured prior on the show here in Good to Go, How to Eat, Sleep and Rest Like a Champion, she touches on, and more than touches on, she outlines your approach to recovery. So I definitely want to loop back there. But what does a long run look like for someone like Camille Herron? As you said, there's a 2-week often cycle with 4 sort of key sessions that you want to hit. But what do long runs look like for Camille? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked about this a lot. So when I got into ultra running, I really had no idea like how to approach it, and I hadn't really like read a lot or studied a lot, and so I just thought instinctively I needed to increase my long runs. I needed to run more mileage. Like obviously to go run 167 miles in a day, that's a lot of running. So I just thought I had to run more. So when I tried that, I tried extending my long run up to like 50K. That I started feeling tired. Like I felt like I was losing the pep in my step. Coming from the marathoning into ultra running, I just felt like I was more lethargic. I just felt tired. And my first couple ultras didn't go quite as well as I'd hoped they would. And I just felt tired. I didn't really like that. So basically going into 2015, I went back to more of a marathon training approach, that the approach that Connor and I had developed, from years and years of training for the marathon. So I went back, I shortened my long runs back to about 18 to 22 miles. I don't know if you guys, if you guys go by the metric system or miles, but
metric, but we can convert. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that might be like 32 to 36K or so.
Yep.
So I kind of went back to shortening my long runs to 18 to 22 miles, and just, keeping my turnover up, doing a lot of quality work. And I think that the key thing, I always felt like if you were going to go further than 22 miles, that you might as well just run a marathon or run a 50K. And so my first year was trying to figure out how to time doing doing a marathon as a build-up for an ultra. And so I found that if I do a marathon or a 50K like 3 to 6 weeks out from like a peak ultra, that really kind of primes my body without being too long and taking too much out of me. So yeah, when I went back to more that marathoning training approach for ultras, but that's when I started winning the world titles, breaking world records, and so I kind of found my formula was really just a marathon training approach for ultra running.
So not over-indexing on that long run. And obviously 2015, such a breakout year with the 100K US National Championships, which at the time was the third fastest time ever by a US woman and the fastest time in the world for 8 years. And I had to smile when I read that after that you reflected and thought, maybe I'm good at this.
I felt like those first couple ultras in 2015, it was amazing what I did, but I was so new to the sport that I knew nothing about nutrition and hydration. So, I just had, raw ability. Like I just had the ability. And over time, I had to learn how to handle all the fueling and the hydration. So I ended up doing a lot better later in the year when I ran my second 100K. I think I took off like 18 minutes off of that. And even then, I still didn't have the nutrition right. And it wasn't until 6 weeks after the 100K World Championship that I won that I ended up breaking Ann Trayson's 50-mile world record. So yeah, ultra running is one of those things where, if you keep trying it, you just keep getting better at it. So
I heard that yesterday an expert is the definition of an expert is someone that just makes more mistakes than someone else.
I feel like I've made all the mistakes.
Camille, your backstory, then we'll want to loop back and obviously extract some learnings around bone health and fueling for ultras, etc. But your backstory, I was introduced to that through one of our prior guests, Ed Haranan's book, The Rise of the Ultras. And there's this beautiful writing on page 152 where at Haranan, he writes, "She smiles, Camille, but fixes me with an intense stare after he approached you at the Comrades Marathon after you just won." And you said to Ed Haranand, "You have to talk to me. I have a crazy story." Now, I know you've shared this at times in the past, but for listeners of this show, can you share a little bit of that crazy story?
Gosh, I need to get his book. You kind of put me on the spot. I have to remember which crazy story.
The tornado.
Was it? The tornado, yes. I thought maybe it was going to be the beer story.
I think that's just trademarked. We know that's part of you, but we do want to touch on that as well. But the tornado, the fastest, I believe it was the strongest ever on Earth, 300-kilometer-an-hour winds.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So when I was in high school, my junior year, a tornado hit where my family lived. And it's pretty incredible. I feel like you could literally make a movie about my life because it's just unreal, like what happened, at that point in my life. This tornado hit where we lived and like lost all of our possessions, and all I had left was the clothes I was wearing and the shoes, my running shoes that I had, and I still got that pair of running shoes that I had on that day, and so that's kind of been a source of inspiration for me. But yeah, what I really got from that experience was that I needed to value my life and my abilities. And I used to not run on Sunday, and I started running on Sunday morning because I felt like I needed to make the most of my ability as a runner. And I started doing long runs on Sundays. And that really just, I've kept up with that. I've kept up with that thought that, I'm showing my appreciation for my life by running long every Sunday. And yeah, that happened because of what happened to me when I was in high school. But yeah, I've learned to value experiences more than things. And, all you need is a pair of running shoes to be able to do this running thing. And so yeah, I feel like very blessed that, what I can do and where my legs take me and what I've been able to do as a runner. So,
gosh, that's so rich to value experiences more than things. And And because there were 40 people, I believe, that did lose their life in that tornado.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, we lived across the street from my high school, and in the vicinity of where we lived, there were 4 people that lost their lives. Just like in that area. So my dad had loaded up our family and drove us down south to my grandparents before the tornado hit. And the one of our neighbors, she was in her bathtub with her mattress over her head, with her dog underneath the mattress in her bathtub. And like just north of us, I mean, it was just like concrete slabs of where people lived. And our building was still, because we had, where we were living at the time, my parents had just moved up to the city, and we were living in an apartment complex. So I mean, we had just moved there, and the crazy thing is, where we lived, that got hit by the tornado, and then my parents were also looking at buying a house that was south of where we lived, and that entire area, that entire neighborhood was hit by the tornado as well. So wherever we had lived, we were going to get hit by the tornado. So it's pretty crazy to think about.
Gosh, and as you say, it really did birth an appreciation for your life, which you've, as you say, it is a bit of a movie. And one thing I find inspiring, Camille, about your story and your journey is, I think many athletes could relate to a frustrating, sometimes disappointing, junior career, if you like. Probably wouldn't call it a career that we have, but
yeah.
You worked through 7 stress fractures at college, and a coach that I believe sort of perhaps said that you really weren't good enough. Yet, as you've shared, Connor was preparing for the US trials 2004, and that gave you a rebirth. But those early days must have been quite challenging. And I recall once someone saying to me, maybe you're just not meant to run, because I had a string of injuries, and I was devastated as a teenager. I was about 15.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard enough. I mean, there's a dime a dozen of girls that go by the wayside because they go through changes in their bodies, they get injuries, and you hear about eating disorders. And so, I mean, I dealt with a lot of that when I was a young runner. I mean, I grew 9 inches in high school, and I laugh because I grew up as a basketball player, and I got my height after I was done with basketball. So I mean, I was just a really awkward, and I was somebody who grew up and didn't put on the muscle to go with my body. So I was just very thin and tall. And fortunately, I've always had good eating habits, and I've never lost my period. I was just tall. I was just a naturally tall, lanky runner, and my body was really awkward, and I had 7 stress fractures, and I kept going through this cycle of coming back and, doing really well and then getting injured again. And so, yeah, and then on top of it, my family losing our home to a tornado. So yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of things happening really, really quickly in a short period of time. And when I got to college, my college coach, he just told me I wasn't good enough to run Division I. And I mean, this was very devastating. I mean, it's hard enough coming into college and having to deal with the stresses academically and adjusting to a new environment, and then going through injuries. I also had a teammate who tried to commit suicide multiple times as a freshman, first semester as a freshman, and she lived down the hallway from me. And so she was an incoming freshman alongside me. So, I mean, it was just one thing after another. And then having my college coach pretty much, shoot me down that I wasn't meant to be a runner. I wasn't meant to be a good runner. And so, yeah, when I met Connor, it was right after my freshman year of college. And I met him at a jazz festival of all places, 2 runners at a jazz festival. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, Connor had been through a lot of injuries as a post-college runner. He had a really bad accident after college. At the time, he was sponsored by ASICS and Power Bar. And so he was a very good runner coming out of college. And then he had this accident where he fell into a manhole and messed up his ankle. And so he was kind of going through a dark period in his life. And when I met him, we were both like at this state of like at the bottom, the bottom of our running. And so we both kind of resurrected each other's running careers. And at first it was him making he got his U.S. citizenship because he was originally from Ireland. And so he made the U.S. Olympic marathon trials. And so I was just helping him. I had gotten a medical hardship during college. And basically the doctors had said that they didn't think that my body was meant for competitive running because I had gone through all these stress fractures. And the doctors, I think the doctor wrote like a note to our trainer and said that he didn't think I was meant to run competitively. So yeah, I ended up getting this medical hardship, and I was helping Connor with his running career. And I basically helped him resurrect his career, and he went on and ran 2:18 in the marathon. So
yeah, gosh, but there must have been times where you did think it was done, like you lost all hope and confidence.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for happening to meet Connor, and I mean, it started with me helping him, and then the tables turned where the story that I like to tell is we were up in Boulder, Colorado, one summer, and we went out for a run together. And I didn't get back from the run until after him. And he's like the serious runner at the time, and I'm just a recreational runner. And he asked me how much I was running, and just for fun at the time, I was running like 70 miles per week. So 70 miles per week is a fun runner. I mean, like not even. I mean, it was, I think what happened was, I mean, we were in Boulder, Colorado, and it's so fun there with all the trails and just seeing so many elite runners that train there. And so I was out having a good time one day running on the trails, and I didn't get back until after him. So, Connor was kind of more regimented with his training, where I was kind of more like free flowing. Like if I'm having a good run, I'm going to stay out there. So that's kind of how it happened. That Connor said, "Whoa, that's a lot of running. Maybe you should start doing some workouts." So,
and circle forwards and world records and world championships later. Connor's recommendation held well. Camille, navigating bone health. I mean, as a physiotherapist, one of the things that always grabs my ears is a history or a chronology of bone stress injuries as, unfortunately, typically the best predictor of a future bone stress injury. You mentioned there, we've touched and explored this topic in quite depth on this show before about, to a degree, bone health, and something jumped out in what you just shared, that your cycle, the menstruation cycle, you've been able to maintain even amongst high volume. Now, I did read in, I think it was Ad Haranan's book, that you cite your high intake of meat and therefore probably a boost to your energy balance is one of those keys. But what encouragement or what advice can you share with listeners who have perhaps battled some bone stress injuries and are frustrated and perhaps a little bit losing some hope and confidence in their running ability because of repeat bone stress injuries?
Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, my bone injuries that I had as a young runner, that's what inspired me to become a bone research person. And I did that professionally up until last year. And so what I learned as a young runner is your bone health and being able to get your period every month can very largely be because of energy balance. And so I knew that as a young runner that it was very important. It was very important for me to use as a marker of my health, getting my period every month. And if there started to be variations in, the number of days of my cycle, that was an indication of my energy balance. And so, I was pretty fascinated with this at a young age, trying to understand why I was getting my stress fractures. And for me, I learned, it was just more about growth. There was an imbalance between my muscles and my bones. And it was like my bones were pulling on, or my muscles were pulling on my bones and just causing too much stress. and then alongside overtraining, because in college, I mean, we used to hammer it every day. Like, we were going hard every day. Our easy runs were hard. Our hard days were hard. And trying to do that at a time when my body was going through all this growth, that it was just too much stress. It was too much stress on my bones. And so yeah, I definitely had the nutritional aspect down, but I didn't have the balance of stress, stress in my life, stress in my training, and then sleep as well. I mean, your body rebuilds itself in your sleep. And so, yeah, just trying to understand at a young age, like, the balance between all these things, it was important. And so, yeah, I mean, thinking, like, talking about your period, your monthly period. I mean, if a woman is not getting a woman of my age isn't getting her period, I mean, that's a red flag that they need to, seek out the medical experts and try to figure out how to troubleshoot that.
And I think it's very healthy and also helpful that there is such an openness now, a much greater openness to this discussion, and a greater awareness to energy, and for female athletes, the indication of health through regular cycles. Camille, they say that research is me-search, so you went deep into this academic world. I think it'd be fun and insightful. Can you share for listeners what actually happens to a bone cellularly/physiologically when it gets loaded? Because I think the view that so many of us have, and I even had it up until I learned better at university, that bones are just rigid levers that hit the ground, and that's how they go through life. But can you explain, we go out for a run, what happens after that, and how do they repair?
Oh, this is really dorky science here, Brad.
Let's just do it. Dorky science is good. Here's Camille Herron, the dorky scientist.
I haven't really had to explain this. So when I think about movement, I think about fluid flow, shear stress of blood. So I think about blood flow. So when you move, your blood flows, and it carries growth factors, micronutrients, to where it's the movement's taking place in your body. So I mean, even I did my master's thesis on low intensity, high frequency stress. So vibrational stress, being able to stand on a vibrational platform, and you could equate that to standing, walking. Think about like a turkey. Think about the movement patterns of a turkey. And what does a turkey do all day? It just stands, it walks, and it has like an occasional wing flap where it where it goes airborne. And so, like, turkeys, they study turkeys because they want to understand how its bones are the way it is. I mean, it has structurally strong bones because of all that, that low intensity, high frequency standing, walking, that typical, like, for humans. I mean, we walk, we stand, we're like turkeys pretty much. And so that is what helps to make bones structurally strong. And then it's the high intensity stress that changes bone, that causes change. So when you apply that to humans and you think about running, we have all this easy running that we do, the multiple times a day of low intensity running. And then a couple times a week, we have this high intensity stress, and that's what changes us. That's what makes us better and improves human performance. So I think about running basically because of a turkey, and thinking about fluid flow, shear stress, and that movement of blood. So even if you fracture a bone, like I fractured a rib when I was in grad school and I was doing my thesis, and I laughed because I fractured this rib, and I'm like, ha ha ha, well, now I get to apply my thesis. So I mean, I got out, I taped up my rib cage and just to give it some support, but I still was getting out and running easy twice a day because that got blood flow to the bone to get the growth factors, the micronutrients to help the bone to remodel to form this bone callus on the bone. And so, and then on top of it, we're talking about micronutrients. I was drinking yeasty beer every day. I was having steak because of the protein. I was eating fruits, lots of fruits and vegetables because of the potassium citrate in it, which produces bicarbonate that buffers the acid load of your diet. So I did all these things, and I was able to heal my fractured rib in 3.5 weeks, pain-free.
Wow. You really did put your research and academics to work.
Oh yeah. So it was probably a more fun science experiment than my actual thesis, was being able to heal my fractured rib. But yeah, I mean, I've gone through my running career now, and I've had lots and lots of I'm not somebody that gets overuse injuries, but I'm definitely somebody that tends to be accident prone, especially since I've gotten into trail and ultra running, sliding into trees and mud and like all kinds of crazy things. And, for me, it's almost kind of a fun experiment because I'm able to think, okay, I can't run, but maybe I can still get out and walk, to help my body to recover faster. And so when I've had those periods where I've been injured and I can't run, I get out and walk twice a day. And I can handle that sort of that low intensity, and then I kind of get a sense of how my body's recovering. And then I can, progress to bits of getting back to running. So,
gosh, and as you said, that the high intensity stress changes the bone. And you also mentioned prior there, Camille, that you're a bit of a genetic outlier, but one of the things I think that I do see clinically in my profession is too many hard runs in too quick a succession can elevate the risk of that bone stress, potential bone stress. So for you've been able to figure out your recipe, but I think, would you agree that it's important listeners, runners out there, try and find their recipe as well, per se?
Oh yeah, definitely. We coach athletes, and everybody's dealing with a different barrage of stress, with their families and their job and whatever they're doing outside of running. So everybody, needs to figure out how to not burn the candle at both ends and figure out that balance for themselves. And we're here as coaches, to help people figure out that balance. And I think we're pretty good at it because we've had a lot of life experiences. I used to work full time in research as well, so I really understand how to strike a balance between being having a stressful day job and trying to be able to train seriously. So
yeah, it's so interesting. And as you just mentioned, life loads, those stresses from non-training stress add up as well. And Christy Ashwindon, she cites here, instead of meticulously structuring a recovery program in advance, Herron, yourself, uses intuition as a guide. She recovers by feel. And then you go on to say that your overarching theory of recovery boils down to this: keep it simple and don't sweat the small stuff. Camille focuses on the big picture. How are my overall stress levels? Am I feeling invigorated or drained by my training? I think that's just so liberating for us to hear, Camille, that it doesn't need to be complicated, but we do need to be tuned into how we're feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to Christy for her book. And what I got out of her book was every day when you wake up, you need to ask yourself, how do I feel today? Like just that simple question, how do I feel today? And that, it really puts you in tune with, not necessarily doing what's written on paper for your training workout, that you're kind of working more with your body. And every day, with myself or the athletes that we coach, we want them to be in tune with their body and to have that flexibility to know if you don't feel great today and you don't feel like doing a workout, it is totally okay to wait and like do it another day, or maybe you just need an easy week. I mean, that's totally okay. So, yeah, I mean, being able to instill that kind of confidence and that intuition in people, that it's really reassuring to them. So,
and it does take confidence, doesn't it, to be able to feel confident in knowing that, okay, how I feel is one of the best benchmarks on whether I'm going to get anything out of this session, or am I better to sit on the sideline? Because there's that, fortunately, that slowly fading adage that if you miss a session, you're a bit of a wuss, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, people start to doubt themselves, and yeah, I mean, we're here as coaches that we want to reassure people that it's totally okay. I mean, I do it all the time. I mean, if it's snowing outside or it's pouring rain and you're just like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. I mean, there are good times when, you know, it is nice to grit it out in a rainstorm or a snowstorm. But, you know, I mean, you got to be able to have that flexibility to work with the conditions and how you're feeling. And I mean, that is entirely okay. Like, and I think it just reassuring people that that's okay. That, yeah, I mean, that's one of our roles as coaches. So.
Beautiful and brilliant. Camille, just a few more themes before we throw into a performance round of rapid fire questions. Strength and conditioning. Does that play much of a role in your week?
Oh yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like as I've gotten older that I've gotten wiser, and that I kind of know, like, I kind of have my routine that I figured out, and in terms of strength training, that I have like an upper body routine that I do, and I pretty much structure it like 8 weeks before a peak race that I do. And it's just a circuit that I developed at the beginning of my marathoning career. And so it's like 6 different exercises that I do. And for me, strength training is really cool because I studied strength training as an undergrad, and I understand what's happening hormonally. And so when I started my strength protocol, the key factor was to do heavy weights. And I have this cycle that I do. And if I do it consistently twice a week, after about 6 weeks of kind of progressing myself up, I start to see a correlation to my running performance. I start to see jumps in my running ability. And so doing heavy weights, you get that hormonal, that growth hormone release, and it ends up helping you to recover. And so it ends up being systemic throughout your body, and it helps you to recover. And I start to see those changes in my running after about 6 weeks. So that was kind of a cool science experiment I started that I've kept up my entire running career. And then as I've progressed throughout my career, I've kind of, especially with age, I've kind of learned that my hip mobility is really important. I'm not into static stretching or anything like that, but I mean, I like to do things like maybe some step ups or some single leg squats before I go out the door, because it just kind of primes my hips for running. But otherwise, I mean, I'm not super, I mean, I do strides and drills twice a week. So I think of doing supplemental things as more of a dynamic movement, not a static movement. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of like adapted with my body through my life and through my age, and I'm kind of gradually, you know, if I'm feeling something off, that I'm pretty aware to do the sort of exercises to help my body, you know, get over that. My body, you know, you just kind of learn as a runner how to troubleshoot your body and how to keep it healthy and keep moving forward. So, and
one of the key things there, Camille, that's so rich, is that the loads with your strength work do need to be heavy, and we've touched on this on the show in the past about that high bone strain being helpful for obviously bone density, but also correlating to running performance. So that's rich. We've featured probably one of your colleague researchers who I'm sure you'd probably have a professional relationship with, Professor Belinda Beck here on the Gold Coast, formally about bone health. And And she touched on the need for those exercises to be heavy. Are you at liberty to share like a couple of those exercises? Obviously, probably doing squats. You mentioned, you might do some primer stuff like some step ups. But are there? Can you let out of the box Camille's top 6, or is that that the secret sauce that's not going to be opened?
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of my upper body, I mean, it's just pretty standard stuff. I mean, I've got the bench press and shoulder press, and it's really not so much about them being, I want them to be specific to the running movement, the running muscles, but it's really more about doing it heavy and doing it to fatigue. So yeah, I mean, it's just like bench press and shoulder press and tricep push-ups and regular push-ups and my mind's drawing a blank right now. Was it bicep curls and let's see, I've got 2 more. I'm drawing a blank right now. But really, I mean, it's just, I think the thing to point out is, I mean, it's just heavy. It's heavy. And when I do lower body stuff, I mean, it's single leg squats. Sometimes I've actually this year kind of been experimenting with weighted single leg squats, which is something I wouldn't normally do in the past if I had races. And so I kind of wanted to see what happened, how I feel doing with a little bit of added weight. So deadlifts and single leg squats, and I've talked about step ups, and I've just kind of been experimenting with it. I mean, for me, I feel like as I've gotten older that I feel it in my hips. I feel it in my hips. I'm like, what's happening with my hips over age? And so I really have to stay in tune with, keeping up my hill workouts and doing, some level of leg work, whether before runs or after runs. So.
You're listening to Camille Herron, queen of the ultra trail running world, on this, a featured performer episode of the Physical Performance Show. Support for today's show comes from Endure IQ. Endure IQ was founded by prior very popular expert edition of the show, Dan Plews. Dr. Dan Plews shared around heat training and acclimation for the endurance athlete, a topic he knows inside and out, considering he is the Hawaii Ironman World Triathlon Champion record holder for an age group athlete, completing the course in 2018 in a blistering 8:24. Whether you're an athlete or coach, Endure IQ aims to empower you with the knowledge, tools, and strategies to optimize your sports performance. Endure IQ brings you online courses in the practical application of low-carb, high-fat diets, training fundamentals, and heat strategies. And the team have got a great offer for the Physical Performance Show listeners and followers. To get you started, they've gifted $25 towards your first Endure IQ course. Simply use the coupon code BRADBEER, capital BRAD beer, at the checkout. Information is useful, but knowing how to use it is powerful. Endure IQ, hitting the sweet spot of performance, health, and enjoyment. Visit endureiq.com. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's award-winning telehealth consultations. If you are an endurance athlete frustrated by persisting tendon, bone, or joint-related concerns, then jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth, and there you can schedule your 45-minute online consultation. Join endurance athletes worldwide, getting results and back to their physical best. And as outlined last week, we are so excited at the show to have launched the Physical Performance Show's Learnings membership. It exists for those who wish to support the production of the show through Patreon, something that many listeners had asked about in the past, and we felt it was time. And as a way of saying thanks, if you do support the production of the show for $5 per month, you'll be able to access all upcoming live stream events, which will be holding triannually for free. The live stream events, which have been so popular through 2020 with Dr. Stephen Seiler and Dr. Shona Halson, normally ticketed at $49, but for the Patreon supporters of the show, all live streams and post-event recordings are gifted to you in return for your support. To become a Patreon supporter of the Physical Performance Show, jump over to Patreon/TPPS, or simply search the Physical Performance Show Patreon. For now, let's jump back with Camille Herron sharing on her career highs, lows, and learnings on this A Featured Performer episode.
Camille, thank you for sharing. Are you ready for a session for the day? This is the performance round, some rapid-fire questions. Here comes the first. Are you ready?
Okay, let's go for
Training session most disliked.
it. Training session most disliked. Gosh, I mean, I just like to run. That's so weird to think about, because I feel like even like people would probably be shocked to know that that I actually love to sprint. I would say like maybe the session that's really hard. Session I don't like. I mean, I don't like to run short. I like to run long. I think my favorite is just the longer I go, the better I feel. So I don't like to taper.
Well, and I knew that was going to be a hard question that might throw you, because you love it all. Training session most loved. Let's flip it on its head.
Training session most loved. So people would be probably shocked that I love to sprint. I love to do 90-second reps. And so sprinting, I mean, I come from a mid-distance background where at one point I was anchoring the 4x400 relay team. So I grew up sprinting, and I still love to sprint. I totally suck at it, but that's okay, because at least I can do what I can do, and it feels good. So.
That's a fascinating insight. You did tell Ad Haranan for his book that you perhaps were the slowest 5K runner who can run many sub 240 marathons. So I still think there's plenty of speed in you. Favorite pre-race meal? What fuels you? We know what fuels you at the back end of an ultra, and that's beer. But what fuels you before the race, Camille? Before an event?
Yeah. I've really got this dialed in. So the day before a race, I usually have Taco Bell for lunch. And funny enough, Taco Bell keeps changing their menu. So they took off. I used to eat the double-decker taco, but they took that off the menu last year. So I've been eating a Mexican pizza and tacos, but they're getting ready to take the Mexican pizza off the menu. So I'm just like scratching my head because I don't know what to eat before races.
Well, I think as such a long supporter of the company, they should come out with a Herron burger. But we'll wait to see what the next iteration is after the Mexican pizza. Bedtime, morning time. You mentioned the importance of sleep on our health and bone health, etc. Yeah, what's your sort of routine look like around getting to bed, getting up out of bed? What sort of times?
Oh my gosh, I don't think people will believe it.
Give it to us.
I'm a night owl, so I go to bed between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I'm out running after midnight because I feel like I sleep better when I run before bed. So yeah, and I will go out for a run and I'll come back and eat like a lot of food, and I mean I eat before my runs, I eat after my runs. And then I sleep like a bear. Like I like to sleep until like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So I probably get like 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. And so I'm not a morning person at all. I don't start to really wake up until around noon. And so I do most of my longer training sessions are usually around lunchtime and ranging from an hour to 3 hours. With, like I said, like high intensity work, easy runs, or sometimes we drive to the mountains and just do a bunch of mountain climbing. So.
Wow, there's nothing about you that isn't an outlier, Camille. I not many people would find running after midnight putting them to sleep. I mean, Nick Willis, track runner from New Zealand, who I know you'd know Nick, based out of Michigan there now, but Nick did say on this show that he likes to go to the gym late and do a heavy gym session because it feels like it preps him up well for sleep. So horses for courses, right?
Absolutely. I just sleep. I sleep well. And funny enough, I started doing it in grad school. Like I used to work really late until like maybe 8 to 10 o'clock doing my research project in grad school. And then I would run home after that. So it might be like after 10. And I just got into that routine. I mean, I like it being quiet at night and no distractions, and then have a really good meal after that, and then I just sleep like a bear. So I've kept that up the past 14, 15 years. So
and the success of that so evident. Camille, who's the athlete you most admire and why? Tough one.
Oh my gosh, I gotta say my husband.
I had a feeling that might be the case, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And just seeing the commitment that he had, I mean, he had it down when we started dating, and just seeing the commitment that he had. And I mean, he was a really good college runner, so he really had his routine mastered from college and then going after college. And I mean, it was just really eye-opening, seeing his routine, being like, okay, this is what it takes to make it to the top. And so, I mean, I was very inspired by that, and he was heavily influenced me. I was the type in college. I was a busybody. I was in every club. I just did everything on campus. And so Connor's a laid back Irishman that likes to drink beer and train hard. So he kind of slowed my roll down and taught me to cut out all the stuff I was doing. And once I started focusing on running, I learned to be a more laid back runner, basically.
He slowed your roll down. I like that, and he also hands out good beers towards the end of races. We can thank Connor. Toughest competitor you've ever raced against, Camille. Now, you've taken out plenty of men in so many events worldwide.
Oh, gosh. Toughest competitor. Well, I mean, going back to the marathon, I raced some of the best women in the world. So I couldn't even begin to probably Dina Castor was probably the best marathoner I faced. I'm not even in her league, so I wouldn't even say I faced her. But in ultra running, I had to think about that. I mean, I went and ran comrades last year, and I had an injury, so it was a bit of a disappointment for me. But racing Gerda Stein from South Africa and Ann Ashworth. I mean, there's a lot. It's basically the best female ultra runners in the world when you go run comrades. And so I have great respect for them because anybody who's a comrades marathon champ, I mean, they are legit. And so it's really a treat for me every time I get to go over there. And yeah, I mean, the fact that I've won it, I mean, once you're a champion of comrades, I mean, you're like one of the queen of ultra running. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool that I get to run all these international races, whether it's on road, track, or trail running. And I mean, for me, it's fun to be able to test myself at a variety of distances and surfaces. So yeah, I mean, it's everybody kind of has their niche, what they're good at, and there's very few that are diversifying their running and crossing surfaces and distances. So yeah, I mean, I've been able to cover the span from 50K to 24 hours. But for me, I mean, I want to get into more trail running and race more of the best women trail runners in the world. So.
Yeah, remarkable. And the final few questions in the performance round here, Camille. Is there a mantra that you would often use when you're racing?
Yes.
Self-talk?
Yes. Oh, definitely. My most favorite thing to tell myself is to let the magic come out.
Ooh, I like that. Let the magic come out.
Yes.
And it has many times.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I have this gift, and when I toe the line, I have to let that come out. And I mean, it's such an empowering thing that I mean, I had no idea I was going to be able to do what I've been doing in ultra running, and so it just feels like a blessing. I feel like every time I toe the line, it's a blessing for me to be there and that I've trained for that. And I just have to show the world what's possible and to let that magic come out. So yeah, that's kind of what I tell myself. So
what a great perspective as well, Camille. One word to describe your racing style. What would that be? Tough one. One word.
Happiness.
Happiness. I think that would that would make sense. Your mum told you that you came out smiling, and you're still smiling, even after running 14 years, 100-mile weeks. Camille, this is a set question that every featured performer gets, and that's, how would you describe being in the zone in words?
Yes, that's a great question. It's for me, it's going to a near death state.
Whoa. Let the magic happen. Let the magic out.
Let the magic come out. I know. Every time I've gone for like world records or doing something that's transcendental, that for me, it's like I reach a state where my head is floating on my body, and like I'm in like a zen-like state. And I remember feeling this at last time I felt this is at the 24-hour World Championship. I literally felt like my head was floating on my body, and I'm gutting it out, and I feel like I'm flying like close to the sun without touching it, and it's like this intensity, like a feeling of heat and intensity, and my head floating on my body, and it makes me smile because I know when I reach that state that I'm pushing my human limits, and that's just satisfying. I mean, it's satisfying to know that I'm being the best that I can be, and I'm pushing my human limits. So. Gosh,
that's fascinating. Camille, you are out of the performance round, and you didn't need to go to the death state to get out of it. So well done.
You're listening to Camille Herron, Queen of the Ultra Running World, on this Featured Performer episode. If you missed last week's Expert Edition featuring former head physio for British Cycling and the all-conquering Team Sky cycling outfit, Phil Burt, then you missed a whole lot of fun and great learnings around bike fit and cycling fundamentals. Here's a snippet of my conversation with Phil Burt.
The one piece of advice I would give is I think the ability to know when not to train is more important than when to train. I think I've worked with some people who have been brilliant athletes. You never would have heard of them, had better numbers than some very famous people, but constantly broke down with illness and injury. I think the ability to know when to back off is just as important, if not more important than when to push yourself. So I think that can be the key difference. Sometimes, under-recovered is more of a problem than overtrained.
To enjoy the full episode, be sure to jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy the show from. Also, the show is now available on YouTube, where we'll be sharing some mini clips post-episode releases as well. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, Camille Herron, Queen of the Trail Running World, brought to you by Endure, IQ, and Pogo Physio's telehealth consultations.
Camille, two final questions. If you could boil everything you've learnt through your career to date, and obviously now Connor and yourselves coaching world, but into one single piece of advice to help listeners of this show, who are predominantly endurance athletes, coaches, practitioners, etc., perform at their best, what would it be? Camille Herron's one piece of advice.
Okay, run easy on your easy days.
Run easy on your easy days.
Yep, absolutely.
That's so simple, but can be challenging to do, right?
Yes. Think of it as stress relief.
Relief.
Yeah, stress relief. Going easy, and I mean, I have to constantly remind myself of this, because when I start to get like I get too serious or too focused, and going too fast on my easy runs. I mean, that can sometimes take a toll on me, and and I have to remind myself, okay, slow it down, go easy. And it's kind of amazing how if you just have that thought of running for stress relief, that you relieve that stress, you feel less tension in your body, and I start to see a change in even like my sleep. Like I start to sleep better, if my body's less stressed. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing how, like, if you just change your perspective for how you feel while you run, and running for stress relief and taking it easy, how that impacts you. So,
gosh, that's it's rich, and to hear it from someone like yourself that at times you struggle with running easy is really empowering as well. But the importance can't be overlooked. Camille, every guest of the show issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So, What is Camille Herron, Queen of Ultra Running's physical challenge going to be?
Physical challenge. I talked about running 90-second reps. So for me, I like to do like 14 to 16 of them. But, hey, if people can, only do like 10 or 8, I think that that's the money workout. I think that that's, if you can raise your threshold of speed, that raises your threshold for everything. So 90-second reps with equal recovery.
Okay, I was going to say, what recovery? So equal recovery.
Yeah.
We'll call this the Camille Herron's 90-90 physical challenge. And if you take it on, do post up. Let Camille know that you've taken it on. Camille,
there you go.
The journey ahead, they're strange times, but where might we hope to see you pop up next? Obviously, things are changing quickly worldwide.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I'm actually bouncing back. I tried to do this 48-hour race a couple weeks ago, and my body said, not today. So I'm trying to bounce back from that right now, but I'm committed to the JFK 50 miler in November. So I'm working my way up towards that. And then in December, I'm going to be running the Desert Solstice Invitational, which is where I've set 2 world records there. And so I'm going to be trying to improve my 12-hour and 100-mile world records there here in December. So
12-hour and 100-mile world records in December. So it's a big time of preparation, Camille. And I think the irony of social distancing in the ultra world, it couldn't be further apart, right? In most instances, unless you're at an aid station, it's great to know that you're still able to get out there and show the world that gift that you've got. So we wish you all the best with your preparation and execution on those days. And Camille, obviously, if we want to follow the journey, we can find you on social at Run Camille on Instagram, and then the website Camille Herron, RRON, where listeners can find out more about all that you're up to. Plus, if they're after some coaching, what better place to find it than from yourself and Connor? Sure.
Yeah. I love interacting with people on social media. So you can find me at Run Camille I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So thank you,
Camille. You are a treasure of the running world. So thank you for stopping by on the Physical Performance Show, and we wish you all the best going ahead for this ongoing movie of your life.
Ongoing movie. I think the best is yet to come. So
here, that's brilliant. Thank you, Camille.
Thanks, Brad.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust and I know you enjoyed Camille's share-ins. She is such a character. I had a great time conducting that interview, and I'm sure there's some pearls that you took away from Camille. You can access the show resources and notes over at pogophysio.com.au, and be sure to give Camille a follow and a shout out. You'll find Camille over on Instagram at RunCamille, RunCamille, and let Camille know what it was that you took away from her share-ins. Massive thanks to those leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes for the show. And as always, a massive thanks to the great team who make the show possible every week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design. Be sure to check out Endure IQ and their great online long course triathlon courses. Dr. Dan Plu's founder really knows his stuff, and if you enjoyed episode 213 featuring Dan on heat training and acclimation for endurance athletes, you'll learn so much more with their online courses. To redeem the $25 off any course offer, be sure to use the coupon code BRADBEER. And of course, if you'd like to support the production of the show ongoing and gain free access to any upcoming live stream events planned for 2021, then we invite you to support the show through our Patreon page, which you can find at patreon.com/TPP show. Keep the podsies coming. That's a screenshot of the episode you're enjoying and tagging in the show on social media at Physical Performance Show. They are always so much fun to see coming through. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, we jump back over with an expert edition from prior featured guest of the show, Dr. Nikki Kay. You may remember Dr. Nikki sharing around all things Red S, hormones, for health and performance on episode 198. Well, we thought it was high time to invite Dr. Nikki back to share further around hormones across the lifespan and the role that hormone profiling can play for both male and female athletes looking to pursue their physical best. So be sure to be tuning in next week for Dr. Nikki Kay, sports endocrinologist. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.